to stand here today in this august house, a house that was established in the 1700s and is still in existence today. A house where all of Tobago comes on a monthly basis to discuss Tobago's business. I wish to begin with the reading of our motion. It says, whereas the majority of the Tobago House of Assembly revenue come from the central government of Trinidad and Tobago, and whereas consistent with Section 41 of the Tobago House of Assembly Act 1996, the Tobago House of Assembly's 2008 fiscal budget request from the central government, which totaled $5.041 billion, was made, and whereas this represents a budget shortfall of $2.874 billion, and whereas the central government is responsible for allocating $2.1936 billion with a promise to allow Tobago House of Assembly to borrow, be it resolved that this House mandate the Executive Council to present a new budget at the end of November 2017 sitting, using the actual central government allocation to forecast new recurrent expenditure, capital expenditure, CPEP, and URB expenditure. And it should be further resolved that the Executive Council also present to this House plans for revenue generation outside of monies allocated from central government. Madam Presiding Officer, I stand here today feeling like if it's deja vu. As if we have been here, we have done that already, and we had no right standing here asking for a more practical budget to be presented. If my memory serves me right, the month was June 2017, when the Finance Secretary, who is seated across there, would have brought to this House a budget that was quite unreasonable. And we looked at him with awe, with deep concern for the national community of Tobago. Because here he was, dreaming in broad daylight. Here he was, Madam Presiding Officer, advising the people of Tobago that under that or this new Executive Council, they are going to get a budget allocation from Trinidad numbering some $5.041 billion, something we have never seen since the 1700s. We have never seen that since the 1700s. And now in a recession where the country is crying out, where contractors are not being paid, where the public servants are being threatened with extermination if they pay them, where the hospitals are without basic pharmaceuticals. Things like sugar and rice in the hospital becomes a scarce commodity. With all that in mind, the Secretary for BACOLET, Mount St. George, who happens to be, in fact, the Assemblyman for BACOLET, Mount St. George, the Secretary for Finance, stood in front of us, eyes wide open, and presented a budget that was maliciously misleading. Tobago is in a position where it cannot afford to lose. We're in a catch-22 position, a make-or-break position. We have to succeed. And with our collective wisdom in this House, we today must contemplate that serious motion that the budget which was done in June for $5 billion be redone in the month of November that reflects a more judicious approach to budgeting, a more realistic approach to budgeting. That budget that they must redo must amount to what the government has allocated for Tobago.
As I rise to contribute this afternoon, I am indeed intrigued by the fact that the minority leader would have started off with a historical reference, speaking about the establishment of this August House in as early as the 1700s. And I find it quite ironic because when I first read this motion, when we got notice of the sitting, I thought to myself, 1493. And 1493, for those of you who may not know, was the year that Christopher Columbus returned from his first voyage. And in that year, Christopher Columbus, when he got back, he anxiously wrote to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella to boast of his discoveries. We now know, Madam Presiding Officer, as she would have it, Christopher Columbus did not discover anything. It is simply astounding that the minority leader would propose a motion that practice shows we have done and we have done again and we will continue to do. As a matter of fact, Madam Presiding Officer, the Chief Secretary has on numerous occasions in the media, and as a matter of fact, there was a retreat by different members of the Assembly, the Executive Council, administrators, senior staff, and there was a press conference afterwards. And one reporter, on the prompting of one of the members of this House, asked the Chief Secretary, will you be returning to the House to present any revised estimates? Very clear question. And the Chief Secretary gave a very clear response. Yes, we will be returning to this House. So the Hansard shows that we've been doing it. The Chief Secretary has said it on numerous occasions. As a matter of fact, I have the Hansard records as well for when Mr. Jack presented, and I'm happy that Mr. Duke remembers so well. In June, Mr. Assemblyman Jack also said that we will be returning. So I'm wondering, why are we here today to discuss a motion for something that we know is coming in any case? And I find it far-fetched, especially when from day one, they've been blowing the horns and saying that they're more important business for the people of Tobago. It's more important than pressing matters. Okay, fine. Today's Private Members' Day, where is that urgent and pressing business for the people of Tobago? This is your opportunity. As some of the old people might say, brag in a hall and nothing a chamber. Talk, 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 talk. And then there's nothing to back it up. There's more pressing business, fine. Bring forward. This is your opportunity to add some substance as you see it. One is a linguistic expert. I don't know if it's Prince Charming is the other name for him. Another is a doctor in whatever field. Another is a trade unionist of what type of import. I think, what is it now? Is it NATOC president? Congratulations. But all I see with this motion is an attempt to score some cheap political points. So, Madam Presiding Officer, it is really shameful that I now have to stand here to salvage some dignity of this House almost, this August House. And to do that, Madam Presiding Officer, I would like to propose an amendment to the motion. The preambles will remain the same because they are just as important. However, Madam Presiding Officer, I would like to propose that we delete this House mandate, I also propose that we delete to present a new budget, and I propose that we delete from using the actual down to URP expenditure. And under the main motion of be it resolved, I propose that we include that, comma, as has been the practice, the Executive Council presents to this Honourable House the policy measures to manage the budgetary shortfall at the November 2017 sitting of this House. I also further propose, Madam Presiding Officer, that we delete the second part of the motion completely. So, just as to ensure that we are clear, my proposal is that the new motion reads, be it resolved that, as has been the practice, the Executive Council presents to this Honourable House the policy measures to manage the budgetary shortfall at the November 2017 sitting of this House.
Madam Presiding Officer, I thought that what we requested was a very fair request. And let me start by stating that, no, we are not asking you to bring your policy measures. What we are asking is very simple, that you bring, and it is very specific, that we bring a new budget. And it is very disappointing. It is very disappointing, Madam Presiding Officer, that instead of agreeing with it, as you said initially, we thought that you were going to agree with the process. You said that it is a good motion, you said it's a good idea, that you would have simply continued under that vein instead of spending so much time trying to defame character and being ridiculously vague. Madam Presiding Officer, this is extremely simple. We asked for $3.2 billion for recurrent expenditure and we got $1.86 billion. That is a shortfall of over 41%. We asked for $1.7 billion for capital or development expenditure. We got $315 million. That is a shortfall of over 81%. Yes, I said over 81%. We asked for $77 million for URP, we got 18 million. We asked for 54 for CPEP, we got nothing. I said nothing. But then I really understand, I listened to a media report recently and I understand that there is an 8 million for CPEP in Tobago in the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government somewhere, which in itself is a significant problem because it seems like this PNM administration is just handing back Tobago to Trinidad at every single opportunity. Can you imagine, Madam Presiding Officer, if another administration was in central government in Trinidad and had suggested that, how many times we would have heard the word disrespect, and we would have heard the word protocol, and we would have heard the word encroachment, and we would have heard all of those words, but no, silent. But let me get back to the motion, Madam Presiding Officer. The fact that we asked for $54 million, and what we are getting is a measly $8 million, is in itself a cause for concern, and it is grounds for, and let me repeat, be very clear, doing a new budget. Madam Presiding Officer, you see, if we had asked for $5 billion and we got probably 4.9 or something around that level, then we could have understood if you would just present some policies that you would put in place to deal with the shortfall. But no, that is not what happened. It is as if, Madam Presiding Officer, we have a family that normally spends about $5,000 on monthly expenses. And for some reason, in 1 month, we are given $2,000. Any right-thinking husband-wife family would recognize that you cannot just tweak and twist, but you have to go back to the drawing board because it will not add up and it will not make sense. And that, again, let me be very clear, is what we are asking for on this level, on this side.
I feel particularly honored to be addressing you at this, the 8th sitting of the Assembly on Private Members' Day, a day in which members of the minority have the liberty of presenting a motion and leading the debate on any topic which they consider to be of vital national importance. But, Madam Presiding Officer, after reading through the motion as stated by the opposition leader, Assemblyman for Roxborough DELAFORD, I felt that he had wasted this opportunity by presenting a rhetorical request for debate. I really believe that they are missing the point that we are trying to make very clear. The request is rhetorical because this is what we intend to do in any case. It does not mean that what you are hoping to hear from us would not happen. It just means that it would happen in November. So the point of using a motion to present something like this is what is rhetorical. I therefore concluded that this would be the shortest, most elementary sitting of the House to date, since the only reasonable response to what was required to the original motion was the reply, "This is usually done. See you in November." Madam Presiding Officer, it is public knowledge that the Tobago House of Assembly has received less funding than the amount requested from central government for its recurrent and development programs in this year's budget. As a result, I have chosen to title my discourse this afternoon, "Doing More with Less." But before I get into my discourse, I just need the members of the minority to know that we are forward-thinking on this side of the Honourable House, in that the things that you are asking us to do, we have already done. Our esteemed Chief Secretary would have instructed us as Assemblymen to come up with scenarios which would effectively deal with any shortfall in our budgetary allocations. So these things were already done. And the things that you would want to hear, as you said this afternoon, you would hear at our next sitting in November.
There is an expression that we use colloquially. The expression goes like this: playing smart with stupidness. And some of what we have heard preceding is a reflection of that expression. And let me tell you why. The leader of government business stood in this House and proposed amendments to the motion as written. He scratched out the word budget, and then he replaced that by saying policy measures to manage the budget shortfall. And I don't know if he's unaware, but a budget is inherently a policy measure. And so I can't understand the aversion to the word budget being placed in the motion as on its own. Also, he proceeded to ask for the amendment that we should completely scratch out the request in the first resolution to forecast new recurrent expenditure. And I don't know why he's afraid of being that specific. He scratched out capital expenditure, CPEP, and URP expenditure. And the reason why the leader of government business did that is because what the Secretary of Finance will traditionally do does not reflect in its fullest form what he will do prior to the national budget in terms of his budgeting. In November, I'm sure we are not going to get a new one of these draft estimates of revenue because the leader of government business said we will take out the second resolution. We don't want to talk about plans for revenue generation outside of monies allocated from the central government. And I find that strange because if you're confident that this new company that you turn this Tulipa quarry into will work, you should be able to stand there and forecast reasonably how much you plan to earn within the first year. What are your revenue goals for the first year? But, Madam Presiding Officer, I understand his fear and the fear of those opposite, because this is the same political organization that gave us the cassava company, but we can't get 10 pounds of cassava and we can't know how much they're making. They gave us Capital of Paradise. We don't know where the boat is and we don't know how much they're making. Yes. Members stood here and skirt around and avoided talking about how much is in that fund. And I will talk about that later on. And that's because people don't want to be accountable. And if, as the members opposite are arguing, that this is what we are accustomed to doing, that there's nothing new here, or they waste with time and bring a motion based on something we are accustomed doing, then the easiest thing to have done was to let us all say aye and move on. And in November, we get what we asked for. But the fact that they must amend the motion as written means that this is not inherently what they are accustomed doing. Playing smart with stupidness. Yes. That's what it is. Madam Presiding Officer, you see, whenever we have a new executive council, especially one as new as the one we have, where we have just one returning secretary, and we have a few other members who are returning, some as secretaries for the first time, one expects that we have an opportunity to press the reset button. To be honest, Tobagonians have buyer's remorse now. They wish they could press the rewind button. Not just a reset button, but a rewind button. Notwithstanding, the expectations are that we will do things differently to engender better governance. This current Chief Secretary said that it will not be business as usual, it will be business unusual. But given the posturing, it is the same old khaki pants, same behavior. In fact, same script, different cast. Nothing has changed. And so, if this motion is what you are accustomed doing, as everybody has been arguing, then let us all say aye to the original motion, and we come November as mandated in this motion, and we will get brand new draft estimates of revenues. We will also look at expenditures and so on, promised expenditures for the new fiscal year, and we will ensure we talk about CPEP and URP that seem to be lingering in thin air. The fact that they can't do that, Madam Presiding Officer, speaks to the fact that this is inherently not what they are accustomed doing. Playing smart with stupidness.
When I got the email with respect to the motion of the day, I was prepared to come to this house and to be magnanimous and to believe, you know, based on my good nature and my good character, that the members opposite had good intentions, that they came with some substance to this house for us to debate. But what we have seen thus far is theatrics, petty politics, and I'm not going to use a word that the member opposite used, but I would want to urge them that this house, over the past 4 years, we have conducted business in a particular standard. And, Madam Presiding Officer, that standard has really fallen down to the ground. with this cheap and petty politics. Because the members opposite, it is their private motion, Members' Day. And in the past, they failed to support every motion that we brought to this House on substantial issues, to deal with the environment, to deal with a code of conduct. On all matters pertaining to Tobago, they have either refused to vote, abstained, walked out, and did not support any motion. So when I saw the email, I was optimistic, I was hopeful. But on the day, I was on a long drive. And that guiding voice said to me, please, it will just be another show. It will just be another 45 and 35 minutes of casting aspersions at persons and lowering the stature of this House. But Madam Presiding Officer, what was the real rationale of this motion? Because during the 2010 to 2015 period, when this country, when the budget numbers exceeded what we have today, when the PP government was approving budgets of $60 and $65 billion, I didn't hear the member opposite, the minority leader, clamoring and making noise for an increase in allocation to Tobago. I didn't hear him coming on Tobago's side to stand in defense of Tobago and that Mr. Hawaii should increase the T.H.A.'s allocation. There was a deafening silence. I didn't hear the minority councillor. I didn't hear Mr. FARLEY Augustine. There was a deafening silence. You never came to the support and defense of Tobago. But now here you're coming. When this country is faces one of its darkest moments, when the ministers outlined the challenges that we are facing with declining oil and gas revenues, that you're coming now saying that we should be clamoring and telling them, about disrespect for Tobago. But the disrespect has been shown in the past.
All in favor of the amendments put, say aye. Aye. All against, say no. No. The ayes have it. I will therefore read the amended question to be put is, whereas the majority of the Tobago House of Assembly's revenues come from the central government of Trinidad and Tobago, and whereas consistent with Section 41 of the Tobago House of Assembly Act of 1996, the Tobago House of Assembly's 2018 fiscal budget request from the central government, which totaled $5.041 billion, was made, and whereas this represents a budget shortfall of $2.8474 billion, and whereas the central government, in response to allocated $2.1936 billion with a promise to allow the Tobago House of Assembly to borrow, be it resolved that, as has been the practice, the Executive Council presents to this Honourable House the policy measures to manage the budgetary shortfall at the November 2017 sitting of this Honourable House. All in favour, say aye. Aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is now carried.